Hi, this is Tim at Vacheron Constantin at Watches and Wonders, and we are going to showcase every generation of the modern Vacheron Constantin sports watch. This is the original 1977 Vacheron 222. It was an integrated lug, integrated bracelet, ultra-thin automatic steel sports watch from the year 1977, the 222nd anniversary of Vacheron Constantin. Designed by a young Jörg Heisig, it used the Vacheron Constantin variant of the 920 Bausch, which became the 1120. It's the same heart that beats inside the original Nautilus and Royal Oak. Now, this is an example from Vacheron's own museum that they've been kind enough to share with me. You can see the phenomenal level of detailing, including some of the original beveling of the edge of the lugs that survives on this museum piece from Vacheron itself. And you can see some of the design cues as well as integration concepts that would later spread their wings with the 1996 Overseas. The Overseas was designed by Dino Modolo and Vincent Kaufman. Dino Modolo, an independent contractor who still works in watch design. Vincent Kaufman, later to be the first head of Vacheron's own in-house art department. The watch, at approximately 37.5 millimeters in steel, seems almost quaint compared to modern sports watches, but you can see the watch was off to a flying start, integrating much of the imagery of the 222 into a modern paradigm with a COSC chronometer certified Girard Perregaux 3000 series automatic inside. You can see on the case back the original image of the Overseas sailing ship, then as now inspired by the Americo Vespucci, a training vessel of the Italian Navy, and then as now 150 meters water resistant. You can note the circumferential satin graining as well as the radial grain from an imaginary center point with a frosted base and relieved and polished vessel. It was a handsome watch even then, and as you can see, Vacheron mirror polished the underside of the links. No detail too small on this first generation modern Vacheron sports watch, right down to the double lock of the bracelet, which uses both a trigger and a clamshell for security. This is a wonderful historical piece, and these also represent some of the finest buys in modern haute horlogerie sports watches. Now, this is a T-dial from the first series. We're going to jump into a much later version of the Overseas. This is the Overseas Generation 2. Launched in 2004, the model you see here specifically with blue lacquer dial bowed in 2012, and it was produced till the run-out of the Generation 2 in 2015. 42 millimeters in diameter, stainless steel. You can see much of the imagery of the first generation watch has been carried over in the new one, but everything is on a larger, more contemporary scale. As ever, the bracelet is fixed to the case by screws, not spring bars, and the integration of the Maltese cross motif into the watch took a step forward here. As you can see, the bracelet design is lush and sumptuous, but distinctly different from the less distinctive bracelet on the original Overseas. You can see that recurring theme as well as the degree of finish, the polishing in between the links as well as on the shoulders, and we went from that odd trigger and clamshell combination to a full twin trigger deployment on the second generation Overseas. Now the watch, of course, bigger and bolder, but with a gloss as opposed to sunburst dial right here, and altogether more forceful about how it expresses its forms. Well, we're going to turn the tables a little bit and simplify with the Generation 3 Overseas and the 2019 novelty Vacheron Constantin Overseas Tourbillon. Now, it integrates last year's caliber 2160 into a Vacheron Overseas case. What I love is the black polish of the dial base rather than the sunburst on the first, the matte on the original 222, or the lacquer on the Generation 2 watch. We now have an extraordinary combination of translucent lacquer over black polish, and you'll appreciate the fact that the dial is open and unadorned, with the only real encumbrance being the one you don't mind, as the Tourbillon, featuring a black polished Maltese cross cage and a fully finished black polished specular bridge, rotates away. It is a 1-minute tourbillon. The watch steel features a screw-down crown and 50 meters water resistant. You are able to swim with this watch, and because it features Vacheron's wonderful pull tab quick release system, I'm going to denude it of its bracelet. It does come with 2 accessory straps, one leather, one rubber. You can see caliber 2160 on the case back. peripheral rotor automatic. You can see the peripheral rotor keeps the setup thin. So you see everything you would on a manual. It's as thin as if it were a manual, but it has the convenience of an automatic with an 80-hour power reserve in spite of the power-hungry complication. And you can see the 2160 is also adjusted in an impressive 5 positions like a chronometer and blessed with the Poinçon de Genève or the Geneva hallmark. Of course, this being a modern Vacheron, it also features the modern Poinçon de Genève, which is stamped on both case and movement. So considerably evolved over the original, but still distinctively inspired by the 222. We go from oversized sports to elegance. And this is my final new model debut for 2019 from Vacheron. It is the Overseas Perpetual Calendar. Overseas ultra-thin Perpetual Calendar, 41.5 millimeters in diameter, but only 8.1 millimeters thick. The watch is ultra slim, and as you can see, on full bracelet, extraordinarily rich. The timepiece does feature the quick release system that you see on the other Vacheron models, which allows us to appreciate the descendant of the movement in that very first 222. The movement in this 222, the Vacheron Constantin 1120, lives on in the Perpetual Calendar. The base movement is the same. It drives the Vacheron Perpetual Calendar module, and you can see the annular balance that runs all the way around the circumference of the movement itself. You see Vacheron's 22 karat gold engraved compass rose rotor, and they're giving you 22 karat gold in an era when many are giving you 21 karat, 18 karat, or tungsten and base metals. No expense spared. This is a Geneva hallmark 1120, 36 jewels, ultra slim. The base caliber itself less than 2.5 millimeters thick. And of course, this watch, screw down crown and swimmable, a true sports watch, accessorizable with a leather and rubber strap. So you can throw this one on a rubber strap if the bracelet isn't your style, but the bracelet and the rose gold is new for 2019. This is Vacheron Constantin in all of its forms and all of its eras at Watches and Wonders 2019. We're here at Watches and Wonders with Vacheron Constantin with the Traditionnelle Perpetual Calendar Twin Beat, the star of SIHH 2019. You can see the watch, 42 millimeters, is neither exceptionally large nor exceptionally thick. This is the side of the watch we didn't get to see much of during SIHH, so let's take a little bit of a tour. It starts with the mainspring barrel. The mainspring barrel drives through a differential to power 2 separate trains. Now you can see that one train leads to the high-speed balance that endows the watch with a 4-day power reserve. The other train leads to the low frequency or standby train, and I'm actually going to toggle between the two right now. You can see we go down to 1.2 hertz, and now the watch, which would otherwise have a 96-hour power reserve, in fact, has a 65-hour power reserve. There's a split power reserve scale on the dial side. There's also a mode indicator as I switch between the two. High beat, standby. Now the watch is also a perpetual calendar, as you can see. Sapphire discs for the date, as well as the month and the power reserve. The timepiece also extraordinarily wearable. I really can't overemphasize just how compact this timepiece is. Though it's rendered in platinum, it feels wonderfully broad and supported on the wrist, an all-the-time watch. A timepiece that is not yet ready for production, but will be shortly. Easily the talk of SIHH 2019. I want to call attention to a feature that wasn't well communicated during that show, which is the fact that the low-frequency escapement uses a silicon escape wheel. This is a rarity, not the first time in Vacheron Constantin, but one of the first production intent applications. Caliber 3610, also featuring the Poinçon de Genève, so the highest standard of finish. You can see perfectly aligned Côte de Genève across the bridges. A little bit of a PVD to gray and darken it. Mirrored anglage, black polished screw heads, and a handsomely arrayed set of dual trains spun off a single barrel. 64 jewels, hand-adjusted, hand-finished, and easily the coolest watch of the new year. This is the Vacheron Constantin Traditionnelle Perpetual Calendar Twin Beat. Hi, this is Tim at Watches and Wonders 2019, and we're at Vacheron Constantin. The Cabinotiers system is a custom order service that Vacheron offers, wherein just about anything you can imagine is possible. And today we're looking at a watch that may provide a little bit of a muse, inspiration, and food for thought. This is the Vacheron Constantin Armillary Tourbillon Retrograde Snake. hand engraved externally. It's part of the Mécanique Sauvage series that's making a tour of the United States. You can see the image of the titular beast on the external facets of the case. The case, just over 45 millimeters in diameter and red gold, is absolutely overwhelming. Now let's get close. You can see there is a double axis tourbillon, and it features a three-dimensional spherical hairspring, extraordinarily precise and with twin axis, restoring much of the original intent of the pocket watch tourbillon to cancel out the effects of gravity on timing. Now you'll note that there is a bubble on top of the sapphire, so it is actually a multi-piece construction with a dome atop and a box section main. Moving back, you can see 299 parts, all hand finished, centered around the tourbillon, which every 15 seconds creates a Maltese cross as the twin components of the cage overlap. And then on the opposite side, all applique rose gold Roman numerals featuring a double retrograde. And I'm going to show you the double retrograde in action. My hosts have graciously allowed me to operate the mechanism. There we go. You can see it is both a minute and an hour retrograde, and take note of the snail cam at 12 o'clock that operates the mechanism. Is that just hypnotic? Everything finished to Geneva Hallmark standards. You can see the Armillary tourbillon, caliber 1990, is finished to the Poisson de Genève standard, both front and back. Get a little bit closer, you can see that engraved case flank. Turn it all over, and you can see the movement itself. 65-hour power reserve, manual wind, 45 joules, adjusted like a chronometer. You can see the bridges have been slightly blackened to give them somewhat greater definition and strength vis-a-vis the rose gold of the case. Perfectly aligned Côte de Genève, black polished chamfer of all bridges. You'll note interior angles underpinning the double cage for the tourbillon, the most difficult feat of finishing next to poly noir or black polish. And Vacheron does not short you interior angles, as you can count a total of 10 on that bridge. Now turn the watch back over, and the hypnotic dance continues. You gotta wind this one up for its 65-hour power reserve, but it's a timepiece designed to enchant the mind and captivate the heart. This is the Armillary tourbillon, double retrograde snake at Watches and Wonders 2019.